No.
This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system.
Hello and welcome to the Boundary Park alert system with me, Matt Dean, and Andy Halliwell. Hello, Andy.
Hey, afternoon, Matthew.
Afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I've been in my house in London 10 minutes.
Perfect timing. I believe, Andy, you made the trip up for the clash of the Titans at Spotland yesterday. Did you?
I did, yeah. I was looking for you. I had a good look for you, good scout about, and then you released that video that you'd done to the tune of "Love Will Tear Us Apart."
Yeah,
and I saw myself on it.
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't see you on the video or on the day. But listen, have you ever been in an away end that was bursting at the seams as much as that yesterday? It was like every seat was taken. People were standing on the stairs, on the aisles, down the front. It was just absolutely chocker. It felt like there was more people in there than was supposed to be in there. Not in a bad way or a dangerous way. It just felt absolutely chock-a-block. So it was meant. But I did see, actually, Andy, I did see today's guest yesterday because he was stood next to Mark Mills, who was on last week, who introduced Christian to us, and also give his name away because it's written on the screen. You do the fan guest thing, Andy. Are you going to do that this afternoon?
Well, seeing as it's a debutante on the podcast, ordinarily would, but you've given away his giving away Christian's Christian name, but we'll go through the motions.
There's still an air of mystery surrounding him. I guess.
Yeah. First game. When was your
first game? Reading, 1998. I think. Now I was young back then. I was only about 10 or 11 years old, but I believe we had to win to avoid relegation. Reading was sort of up there, if I remember right, and I think we beat them 2-0.
Yeah,
I seem to recall it was but we won the game anyway. And to me, from the first game, I was hooked. I just wanted to go back. I've got my own uncle to thank for me because my actual family weren't that big into football, so I never really watched a game live. And the first time I watched, I just loved the atmosphere. I loved the songs. I loved the crack with all the fans. It just became a big part of my life from then on. Really.
Who was your first favourite player then?
Probably David Ayres. I think what I really admired from Ayres was the fact that the ball could spin towards him, it could bounce towards him, he could receive a bit of an awkward pass, and he'd somehow still get the ball under control and he'd crack it at goal. And you always felt like something was going to happen when Ayres was on the ball. So he was just that player. Obviously, from an early age, you're not really looking at the tactical and strategic side of it. You're looking at who's shooting, who's skillful, and he was definitely the first player that I remember thinking that's my favourite player.
Favourite Latics related memory?
It's going to sound a bit left field, this, but may he rest in peace. Ernie Cooks, he scored an absolute unbelievable goal away at Grimsby when we drew 3-3, and it looked like for all the world he had to cross it, but you could tell by the way he hit it. He hit it at goal, and it was an unbelievable. But I just remember the Latics fans going absolutely ballistic in the away end of Grimsby. That's one for some reason just sticks out to me. I just think it was a shock that he hit it. And I think it's obviously because Ernie Cooks, he will always hold him high in regard, and I think that's one memory.
I think it's on YouTube, that goal, but I think it's one of OFC Memories account, his account that runs it. Who OFC Memories, bizarrely, this is what happens at games, stood behind me yesterday. So I'm to him like, oh, that's you, is it? Amazing. Yeah. And then the last one, if you've not prepared for this, can catch you out. A little unknown fact about yourself.
I actually competed at the Amateur World's Strongest Man 2 years ago, and I was 23 stone about 2.5 years ago, and I've lost 8.5 stone since.
Wow.
Gone gone back to my football roots, but for a long time there, I was in strength sports for a while. There was a period when I didn't go to Oldham Athletic very often because I sort of got in with a different crowd. But I think certainly within the past couple of years, I've been home games, away games, but I've actually played football today as well. So
also because you couldn't fit through turnstiles.
Absolutely. You know what? The home ends now, I struggle to fit through them now, so I don't think I'd have fit through them at 3.5 stone. So
I'll tell you what as well. Yeah, you were in with the wrong crowd who were taking you in a direction of health and fitness. What you wanted to be doing is hanging around with Latics fans who will get you absolutely legless and off your face.
To be fair, my years in strength, I missed all the worst years for being a Latics fan as well. So I've actually got a little bit to thank for there.
Well timed. Right, what's your full name, mate?
My name is Christian Whittaker.
Chris, welcome to the show, Christian Whittaker. And as you were saying, Andy, it's funny how these things happen because yesterday, there's a few things that you touched on there about the atmosphere of drawing you in and memories. And I think yesterday is definitely going to be one of those games that you remember being at. The atmosphere was fantastic. But you were stood with Mark just behind me. I watched the first half right at the back of the stand on the halfway line, and I watched the second half right down at the front at the hoardings on the halfway line. So two really different perspectives of the game. I really enjoyed watching both from both those positions. Actually, it's actually really nice to be so close to the pitch. But yeah, I mean, where do we start on yesterday? Like, we were all there, we all soaked it up. Andy, you made the long trip up from London. It was definitely worth it, wasn't it?
Yeah, loved it. Brought my two young boys with me as well, and so it was. I was buzzing for having them with me because I could pick them up, scoop them up, and get involved in the songs. My eldest lad was loving it. Looking at the scoreboard and reminding me what the score was every 5 minutes. So yeah, it was really, really good. Really enjoyed it. We've got a great atmosphere. In terms of the performance, like, there's loads you could talk about the game, isn't there? Like 7 goals for a start. It was ridiculous. Some good goals in there. We played pretty well, especially in the first half. I thought we could have been at least 3-0 up at half time. Probably had 4 good chances, but could have been 3. Do you
remember last week, Andy, when I said that Alex Reid should have squared it to Will Sutton, and he didn't, and if it had been James Norwood, he would have ended up in A&E. Well, hopefully Josh Lundstrom is okay, because in the first half he definitely should have squared it to James Norwood, and he didn't. That would have made it 2-0 just before half time. And
can I just stick up for Josh there? How old is Josh? Is he 22, 23 years old?
He's around, I think he's 24, but yeah, he's in that area.
So I mean, I'm 36, but if I put myself in a 24-year-old shoes, you've just signed for a big club, you threw on goal, there's only one thing you're doing. And I know as a professional footballer, you're thinking square it to Norwood, but
yeah,
that's what I'd have done what Josh had done in that position.
Well, I mean, if he probably aged a few years when Norwood caught up with him, because Norwood was he was right in front of me. That I was down that end of the pitch. He was absolutely fuming. And I don't know if you've seen Alex Reid obviously put stuff out on social media. He put stuff out on social media from the dressing room, and he turns to, this is at the end of the game when everyone's celebrating the 3 points, and he turns to Norwood, and Norwood just goes, "Josh Lundstrom."
Oh wow!
So he hasn't got it.
No. Well, I mean, it was, but those are the kind of things, though, if in a tight game like that, where, because for me, Lundstrom, if he pings it over to Norwood shoots and the keeper saves it, Lundstrom's there to tap it in again. That's the decision to make, in it. But look, I mean, it's nitpicking. I mean, got to give a shout.
Let me ask you a question. What formation did you two think it was?
It was 4-1-4-1.
Yeah, that's what it was. Exactly that.
Yeah.
I spoke to 3 or 4 other people. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I quite like the 4-2-3-1." I said, "Yeah, it's good formation, but we're not playing it today." It's definitely 4-1-4-1 if you look how it sets up.
And it was the good thing about that. And I think some of the times when we were watching them against under Unsworth towards the end there, you were like, "What formation are we playing?" Like, you know what I mean? It was actually hard to tell. It was a bit jumbled up. Yesterday, it was very, very clearly 4-1-4-1, and the discipline of the team came through in that is that you could see the formation that it was, and they stuck to it, and they were rigid with it. And I think got to give a big shout out to Hallam Hope. I think he played really, really well yesterday. It was him and Paul Murray is becoming a valuable resource, because Mickey Mellon said that was his suggestion in the build up to the game. And obviously he reintroduced Harrison McGee, who again did really well in that position yesterday. I was watching the goals back just before we came on live today, and the things that strike you is obviously they filmed it from our stand, so like every single clip, it's just Latics. It starts with Latics fans singing in it, and then obviously it leads up to something, a goal or whatever. But Hallam Hope was he was involved in most of the goals, involved in the play, winning the ball back. The header on for Norwood, he knew what he was doing with that little flick header. It was a great finish from James Norwood. I thought he did really, really well. And that goal was like, if you got two like pieces of tracing paper and put those two goals of Keely Dunn from a couple of seasons ago and that one from Hallam Hope, they were virtually carbon copies of each other, weren't they? So much to talk about. You know what it reminded me of? The game it reminded me of was this is going back a long time now, show my age, but the Boxing Day game in 1991 when we played United, it was we got beat 6-3, but it was one of those games where it just end to end, and you thought anything could happen. There was just goals coming left, right, and centre, and it was and that was obviously a derby as well. But like, absolutely. What a phenomenal day today was.
It was great. A couple of things that I wanted, we've all could all talk about the Norwood's finish, great finish. I thought Sheeran, and I'm not sure his biggest fan. I thought he played well yesterday. Further up the pitch, just being a menace. The pressing was good, wasn't it? Wasn't it good to see his press high up the pitch? Because you got that McGahey pivot behind that bank of four. It seemed to give that four confidence to be 10 yards further up the pitch. And so they were going in and pressing and then putting them under pressure. You're like, that's it. That's what we want. Get into them. And I said to the lad
next to me today in the first half, I think he was called John, so I give a shout out because he listened to the pod. But I said, like, with this system and with Sheeran being in that high press and getting himself in and around the box, I said, that's great, but we need somebody who can score more goals. Cue Nathan Sharon with a brilliant goal. But that's exactly what, in that position with that high press, you've got to be having midfielders that are prepared to have a crack. And it was a really well-made goal, actually.
Have you seen that video circulating on social media where it's I think it's Ed who's tweeted it, who's been on the pod before.
Yeah,
so I don't know whether he was in the home end or whether he's just got the video.
Yeah, it was Ed Buckley. Yeah,
Buckley. You can just hear the Rockstar fan going, no.
Yeah.
And then it pans. You got to play that on the clip that and play that.
Yeah, it was meant, wasn't it?
But the other two things I just want to pull out, I don't know if you spotted them particularly, was so when Rockstar got it back to 2 apiece, and I you could sort of feel it coming, couldn't you? Like, once they got that one, you're like, they're going to get another one, and you can just feel it. I watched Norwood. Norwood is literally going around all the players, and he's going, calm down. There's loads of time left. Calm down. Just take your time. Don't rush. And he's like pep talking everybody. Norwood, literally going around the team, making sure that they understand that don't worry about it. We're still in the game. We're still playing quite well. We'll still create chances. Calm yourselves down. Keep to the position. You can see him coaching people. I'm like, he hasn't done that a lot. He's done it He's done it to Devine Green a couple of times in games. I've noticed, like giving him a bit of coaching. But he was like literally around the team. Then, of course, when he changed it towards the end because people are tiring, Norwood's then on the right hand side of that 4, literally chasing back. And I'm like, he's doing everything. So I thought he was especially good yesterday. And Liam Hogan, who I still don't think is the best two centre halves at the club, has been immense for weeks. Yeah. Every single tackle he took, he cheered it like he'd scored, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I watched and I was like, Christ, he's really up for this today. So I just thought those two things were great to see. Real passion and commitment, weren't they?
What were your main takes from yesterday, Christian?
I think first half we probably shaded it. I think the midfield in the first half were outstanding. That it worked extremely well. I think what was highlighted in that game particularly was when we got to sort of 60 plus minutes, the midfield died a death. I think Josh obviously just come back, didn't look fit enough to me. McGahey was blowing. Sheeran The lad who scored their goals, I turned to Mark earlier in the game and I said, this number 13, he's going to cause us problems today. Because what I saw from 13 were Keon or Kioe, I can't pronounce his name, but he seemed to be playing left back, then left wing back. But every time they were forward, he was in the box. He was like the furthest player forward. And I looked at him and said, the midfield need to be on him. In the first half, they were. And I think, did he score all three of their goals yesterday?
Yeah,
I just thought the second half, I thought he tore us apart in midfield. I looked at him and I looked at his movement through their game and I thought this player should be playing at a higher level because
he has played at a higher level, hasn't he? Because he played for Dale further up and I think he played for Exeter. So I think he's played. Right. He has, but he's about 30, 33, 34, something like that. I think he's like.
He was all over the pitch all game, and I think. In terms of as an imposing figure in the team, the first half, our midfield was too strong. But as they're tired, he just took control of the game and he got so much space in behind our midfield and in front of the defence. I know a couple of their goals came from set pieces, but the build-up came from him. And I just thought that he causes a lot of problems. And the two lads who came on, there were two wingers who came on at the end, and I didn't think Kitchen had a great game. Sutton struggled, but I thought the midfield was the reason why we struggled that second.
Well, I think the weakest part of our team is definitely right back for me, and that's not digging Will Sutton out because he's not a right back. He's applying himself to a position that is not his own, and he's doing admirably, really. But every team we played in the last few weeks goes down that flank. And they got all their joy down that flank. And I agree, Kitchen didn't have a great game. Still got a sensational assist, didn't he, for Greek? What a lovely ball in. So he's always a threat. He wasn't brilliant, but they didn't come down our left back position a lot. They went on the other side. We've got to get right back in, really. If Freeman's not up to it, we've got to get right back in because it's just too.
Just thought Hayes, the second half down their right side, he really took the game to Kitchen. And I felt that as we tired, Hayes looked like he was... did their third goal come from Hayes?
From the right, came down Kitchen side.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. There's some good play. There was some good play down that side, and that goal was good play from them. Got a good overlap and everything, and caught Hogan and Kitchen out, but... You got to give a bit of credit to Rochdale yesterday. It was a good performance from them. It was great. It's one of those days where you start to miss being in League One and stuff and playing the likes of Wigan and Bolton and Blackburn. I know Blackburn aren't in League One, but they were, and those bigger games because, wow, yesterday. What an occasion for Mickey Mellon and the players. And at the end, when they all came over and we were singing that whole time and like all the Rochdale fans had cleared out, we were all still there making an absolute racket. Just another sort of indication of the potential of this club. Absolutely. Just for that to be a National League game yesterday. And now, the nearest away fans total was York 300 and something, and ours was like 3,200 near enough. Amazing.
Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, there was still plenty of our lot in their end. I guess we need to talk about it a little bit because there were the two fracas, weren't there, at either end of our stand towards their fans. I was down near the sort of terraced home end. It was mainly kids. From what I could see, kids in Rochdale's end, kids in our end, all goaded each other. And I don't know what to say really about it because there are obviously there's some people are going to get a knock on the door again, aren't they? And it's not doing us any good, is it?
No.
Having pyros are banned at games, right? But we still take them every game we go to. On a personal level, I'm not bothered about the pyros. Do you remember in the 80s, Matt? Someone used to have an air horn.
Always an air horn, wasn't there? Yeah,
I remember that.
I love the air horn, and they don't do that anymore because of course they get fussy about the regulations. But I guess if some people suffer from breathing conditions and whatever, I guess they've got to stop them. And and we're going to get fined for it probably. And going on and fighting on a pitch again and swinging.
Well, what actually? I'm not sure what happened down in that far corner. Was it after the fourth goal?
We had a 10-minute stop. It was basically when they had 16 minutes at the end, everyone's going, "Where's he got 16 minutes?" Guys, well, we had 10 minutes fighting at the end.
I mean, it was that end in the second half. I couldn't really see what was going on. I've seen a bit of video of again James Norwood talking to the fans, telling them to calm down and stuff like that. So I can't really comment on it because I didn't see what was going on. I couldn't see at all from where I was, so I don't know what went on. But look, yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of our local games are on Tuesday nights, aren't they? And you can understand why that is from the policing point of view. If days like today, like next season, if we play Rochdale, they'll stick it on a Tuesday night, which is not what anybody wants. But they'll say, "Well, look, it's just too much hassle." So, you know, again, you know, we talk about a lot on this podcast about taking responsibility. I mean, people get excited. It's a big occasion. You know, Rochdale. I mean, I'd rather we got bigger games to get excited about, but the proximity and the amount of fans and how important, you know, 8 games now without a defeat. You know, that's 5 wins, 3 draws. That's a brilliant run. Dave Bradley, who's currently sunning himself based in Turkey like a big pink turkey, is he's convinced that we have to keep wearing these blue and tambourine OASF t-shirts because we've not lost since we started wearing them. So that's a little superstition that we're going to keep going on Wednesday. But we've got Fylde on Tuesday and they're rock bottom. Got to fancy yourselves going to Fylde and picking up 3 points, haven't you?
Yeah, it's classic Latics, isn't it, to go to bottom of the table not 4 minutes. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. But yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know about you, but I'm still not convinced by the goalkeeping position. I'm not. I thought Hudson. Was it Hudson who pulled off that save, or was it the centre half? No.
Hudson made a couple of really good saves yesterday. In the second half, he got across to one of his post, a header. He slid across and put that out. That was on its way in, and he made another decent save from a shot from a bit further out.
He was a bit panicky at times, and his kicking was abysmal. So I like this. I'm not sure. So that and the right back. I mean, it's interesting, because you think about the bench. So no Nuttall, right, who you might have thought would have been a nailed-on starter. Willoughby, nowhere to be seen. Probably one of your marquee signings over the summer. Raglan, League One clubs are after him, not on the bench. They're all fit, I think. We've got some, you know, he just goes back to what were they doing with recruitment over the summer? It just wasn't right, was it? You know, we've got positions that we clearly need to be filled with better players, and we're oversubscribed in certain areas where we've got players that would be catching many teams in this league, not even on the bench. It's mad, isn't it?
Can I just say something about that? Just on the recruitment, I do feel that there was. I mean, I'll take Hallam Hope as an example. Hallam Hope has worked his way further and further down, you know, the priority list of strikers at the club, and it looked for all the world like he was going to leave. Gets a chance in the first team. Looks like one of our best players. Like, how is that allowed to happen? How can we sign Reed, Nuttall, Willoughby, Norwood, yada yada yada, and Hope? Like, we would not have scored 4 goals without Hope in the team.
I think with Hallam Hope, I think what you've got to say about him is and this is something that, you know, maybe I don't know, but maybe some of the other players in the squad need to pay a lot of attention to Hallam Hope, because he is obviously a tremendous professional, and what he does and how he conducts himself and his attitude is absolutely spot on. And maybe some of those other players who aren't making the squad, you know, maybe this is a signal, maybe it's a message. Like, again, this is completely unfair, it's total speculation. I don't know. But like, if everybody in our squad had the attitude as that Hallam Hope had, then regardless of our faults, that would be a formidable squad and a formidable team, because his work rate, his dedication, coming back after the assault, after the injuries that he's had, to come out and to just be chomping at the bit every single opportunity he gets, and to be ready when he gets those opportunities. I think it's class. Really is.
Yeah,
his movement's fantastic. Like the way he links up with the wide players.
But what's interesting about it is, if you think about when Curl signed him, and he was playing him as number 9, and he's never a number 9. The lad, he's not a number 9. When he was successful before, he played in a 4-3-3 formation, and he was one of the 3 sort of either side of the 9. And so yesterday, playing wide in a 4-1-4-1 seemed to suit him. So it's funny, isn't it? If you play to the strengths of the player, put them in the right positions, you'll probably get the best out of them. And I guess what you have to say is, I mean, McGahey, I thought McGahey, well, how do you pronounce it? Apparently, Alex Reed has found out how to pronounce his name properly.
It's McGahey, isn't it?
No, it's McGarry, apparently.
McGarry, is it?
Yeah. It's an Irish surname, McGarry.
Yeah.
Apparently that's how you pronounce it.
Well, there's only one Harrison anyway, so we just call him Harrison.
Yeah, Harrison. I thought he was great yesterday. He's a bit slow when players are going past him, isn't he? But he's good in the air, so he's good in both boxes. And some of those 40-yard diagonal passes to feet were fantastic, weren't they? You're like that was really stretching the opposition. So like that pivot there when he gets a bit of space, you're like, well, we've been needing somebody who can put his foot on the ball in the middle of the park, and he's been there in plain sight. And
he's also a leader, and like you've got Hogan now, you've got McGarry, whatever, you've got Harrison, and then like you say up top, you've got Norwood. So those characters on the pitch. I thought what Mickey Mellon said as well in his interview about what Paul Murray said to him about Hallam Hope, and his comment about I listen to my staff, I listen to the views of everybody. I think that is really, really important. You need senior players need to have a contribution. All the other staff, it's very much a team effort, and I like that. I think I feel that I like what he's had to say early on, and I like that there's more characters on the pitch now because we've lacked it. Like, it's not just this season. We've lacked it for a long, long time, and it's amazing what difference it makes when you've got, like you said, the players playing in positions that they want to play in, and taking responsibility on the pitch, because you can start to see it happening now. It's really encouraging. So, anyone got any more thoughts on yesterday's game?
I think I always come back to the fitness aspects. Like I don't know what we were working on over the summer, but most games I've watched this season, and I've watched the vast majority of them, we do fade in the last 20 minutes. And even against Southend for first game of the season, and I know we were down to 10 men, but we faded there as well. So I do think if we can get better conditioned, I think this team could be double as effective, because we have the ability. I'm not having anybody tell me we don't have players good enough. We do. I just think we need to be better organised, and we need our fitness to be increased. And hopefully, Mellon can help us with that.
Well, if we just switch to the sort of Mellon conversation, he's only had 1 week. He's done a lot of interviews this week, hasn't he? He's been quite sort of camera friendly, and the club have done some interviews and talked about the book he's written, and he speaks well. I'm not going to get overexcited by listening to a few interviews for the time being, because past managers that have failed, Unsworth at times when we've interviewed him spoke very well. So we'll give him. I'll give him time, but I'm kind of warm into the idea. I wasn't overly keen to begin with. I can't put my finger on why I wasn't overly keen. It just felt. It feels like you're like yes, maybe it is, and also like bringing Brabin in as well. Like it feels like he looks like a proper non-league sort of coach, doesn't he? Like real.
And that's what we've lacked. It's the lack of know-how.
I guess like this part of me thinks like the failed attempt at the Unsworth, Eberl, Francis Jeffers, for example, like as names, you're like, well, that's like a really forward-thinking, progressive, like modern coaching staff. Like whereas like maybe the going to the sort of non-league clogger department to recruit just like feels like it's a bit disappointing. You want something more progressive, but to be fair. Unsworth didn't know the league, and it ended up demonstrating that he wasn't going to get the best out of them. And maybe this is the right way to go. And maybe I'm being completely harsh, and maybe it is that Mellon will get more out of them. It also feels like the other bizarre thing is it felt like Unsworth was like a modern day younger coach, and Mellon is an old school coach. Well, actually, there's only 3 years between them. I think one's 48, one's 51, or something like that. And so actually, they're not that different in age. So maybe I'm being completely unfair, but I guess my gut instinct probably is something that's going to need to work out, and Mellon and Brabin will prove me entirely wrong. And I think it's quite good that Murray's around, isn't it? Because he's obviously, a well thought of coach. He knows the club well. So it's quite good that he's going to be involved in the first team. I think on his recruitment, the other thing I wanted to notice this week, did you spot? Well, firstly I spotted, but then it was in the article that Suzanne Geldard wrote that the Rothwells didn't meet Mickey Mellon until he'd been given a job. And I thought that raised my eyebrows to that anyway, because I absolutely assumed that on this occasion that the Rothwells would be involved in the recruitment process. Because on the first occasion, with it being a failure on a recommendation, that they would want to participate in the recruitment. Now, they've obviously gone through an incredibly rigorous process. So we know that there's been lots of applicants. They've interviewed lots of people, first and second interviews. But it looks like all of the interviews have... So basically, the Rothwells have given the job to Darren Royal and what's the lawyer called? Lost my...
Peter Norbury, and asked Peter Norbury to be sort of their man in the room. And the Rothwells didn't meet him until he basically walked in. And I did think that was quite surprising. They said in the article that the Rothwells basically said, look, we don't know anything about football. When I think about that, I think it shows an enormous amount of restraint and like good leadership to say, look, I'm going to let the experts do the job. It's about trust, isn't it? It's really just, I mean, it shows great faith and trust in the people that are recruiting it, and faith and trust that they've didn't get it right last time, but you've learned from that, and you go again with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah. I'm with their backing, which is brilliant. Brilliant to see. If I was a Rothwell, if I was part of that family, I'd have definitely wanted to be in the interview process just to have a look. So I was surprised, but I guess also it is quite respectful. And if you talk about owners, have you seen the fallout that's going on at Accrington? Almost.
Yeah, like live on Twitter.
Yeah. So and Andy Holt is an owner that I think is fantastic in terms of what he's achieved at Accrington, way above what they should expect to achieve. And I love the way that he engages in an open fashion on social media with fans. And I think his balance of that communication is exceptionally good most of the time. Probably what's going on isn't right to be aired on a social media environment. But if you've read the story, I've tried to catch up with it on the train on the way back so I could talk about it today. It appears as though the coaching staff, the managerial and coaching staff, have gone to BBC Lancashire radio and basically bemoaned the fact that they haven't got a contract extension, or tried to, in effect, force Andy Holt into giving them a contract extension because they've just turned the corner and started winning some games and got into the playoffs. And Andy Holt's basically said, "Nah, I'm not having that. Enough's enough. I'm out." I think probably that's not the only reason, but he's saying, "I'm going to sell the club now." And I think, I guess what point do I want to make about that is we don't want to. It's your point about behaviour again, Matt. Why would we want to make the Rothwells at any stage think, I've had enough of this? And I do think when we're scrapping on the pitch, I'm like, don't do that. We've got everything we need now as a base to improve from there. We've just got to watch our behaviour a bit collectively, haven't we? Because we don't want to discourage people from wanting to do it, do we?
Yeah, it's a tough one. What do you think, Christian?
I think from sort of inside the club, we look at our fans and say we're scrapping on the pitch, but I'm raising this question genuinely: does this happen at other clubs? Not that I'm trying to shirk that away, and I'm not saying that it's right, but what I am saying is that is this an issue with Oldham Athletic, or is this an issue with fans as a wider community? Because I look at our fan base, I look around, there are a lot of young people there. And I don't think there's a lot of people guiding them. Like I saw a kid at the front, and he was standing at the front, and the steward would tell him to get down. And then there was an older person behind him saying, "Don't talk to him like that." And it's like, well, it's his job. It's his job to tell. But is that an issue at Oldham Athletic, or is that an issue?
I think it's a good question, and I think that there are certainly. Well, you see, the thing is with games like this, right? With games like Rochdale, it brings out a certain element of the support. So, like a lot of the sort of the rum lot, like some of the older rum lot and things like that, because they still exist and they still go and they still cause trouble. Even though they're big enough and ugly enough and old enough to know better. So if they're the type of people that those younger people are taking guidance from, then, you're on a hiding to nothing, aren't you? So I still think we've got that kind of like, we're in that stage where we've still got an element of the fans that used to behave like that back in the, if you want to call it in inverted commas, the glory days of football hooliganism. If you were a hooligan, they certainly were the glory days. So you've still got those people who are still around. And then I think we're tremendously lucky and we should be tremendously grateful to have so many young fans, because young fans bring the passion, bring the energy, bring the atmosphere. But like you've said, really, really good point. They need to be guided and influenced by older people who say to them when enough is enough, for the benefit of everybody else, for the benefit of even younger fans like your kids, Andy, who can very easily become intimidated and don't want to be involved in that kind of thing. Same for older fans. A lot of older fans don't go to away games because they don't like to be around an overly boisterous away end. So it really is a fine balance. And I think, again, like say it over and over again, that it's a collective responsibility without being a killjoy, because part of what made yesterday so special was that the atmosphere was on a knife edge. And you just want it to be just the right side of acceptable, don't you? You know what I mean? Nobody wants it to be to take the atmosphere and that out of it. But there is it's very simple. Stay off the pitch. Like there's not really any. You can shout what you want at the away fans. Like you can mock them. That's all part of it. One of the great things on the video of the goals yesterday, just before Hallam Hope scored, was you could hear the Rochdale fans and they go, "Yo, not singing anymore." And then Hallam Hope went and scored straight away. Like it was that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. And so I think there just need to be that little bit of control, because if we get seen as a club that encroaches on the pitch, that goads and antagonises home supporters, it's not good. And it will have consequences to the wider football club.
For me, there needs to be. I'm actually Paul Prendergast's colleague, by the way.
All right.
Oh, are you? Oh, yeah.
It would actually be my little not known fact, but I've got a feeling a few of my students watch the podcast as well. So.
Right.
The issue that I've got with that is it's not enough to tell children to stay off the pitch. There has to be some formal education, because if a stranger's just saying to them, stay off the pitch, they're not listening. And the other issue I've got with it, and probably with my teacher head on here, if somebody is going on the pitch, if that is a young person, they're being told by the stewards to get off the pitch, but then you've got people behind them backing the kid up for being on the pitch. And it's like, that's not what we need. We need the older fans to actually be backing up what the steward is saying.
I think as well yesterday, like looking at it, I mean, stewards
from the club though as well. There doesn't seem to be anything formal coming from the club and education. Some sort of social media, some video or something from Frank or from just something out there formal to say to the fans, because I just don't think it's enough to say fans stay off the pitch and then expect that next game they're going to stay off the pitch. It's just not going to work.
Well, because in the heat of the moment, that's the problem. I mean, yesterday, like stewards aren't going to keep you off the pitch, right? No. And then I don't want this is going to sound really patronising or whatever, but the least scary looking riot police I've ever seen were running across the front of they were tiny. Like they were, and it was just looking at them, just thinking, they're not going to stop you going on the pitch either. They're not intimidating enough. And I don't want to see 8-foot brutes stood along the pitch and stuff like that. But it's a great point. It's a great question. It's a great thing to think about, because how do you get that balance? What we don't want is loads of scary looking, you imagine like a European game somewhere where you've got scary armed, like basically soldiers on the side of the pitch with Alsatian dogs. Like, you don't want that. You've got to try and police yourself. That's the best way.
There are a lot of factors, but then, you say, and there's people around you who are sort of like 20, 21 years old. They're still kids in essence, you know, and they've been drinking since God knows what hour. So their judgment's going to be, let's say, impaired. But to me, like, just going back to the point I made, I don't think there's enough coming from the club on that. It's quite clear there is a problem, but there has to be something formal coming from the club.
It seems a bit like the club would rather not address it, and sort of it's a bit like putting, sweeping it under the carpet a little bit. It's not been addressed. When it is addressed, it's in the form of a very short statement. Maybe it's something that, like, OASF and the club need to have a talk about, as well as something that we can potentially, like, how do we address it? How do we? Because it's better to just be honest about it and say, right, there's something here that we need to try and stop without trying to put a dampener on the atmosphere.
One way of addressing it will be to point out exactly what fines we've been given. So Chesterfield this season, we did the same. Again, 96-minute equaliser, all that sort of stuff. But are we getting fined regularly for pyros? Are we getting fined for going on the pitch? What is that costing us? How is that hitting the budget? What is that stopping us spending that money on? Those are the things we need to think about. And
the other thing I'd just today is if they had have scored an equaliser or worse in that extra time at the end, and that all that does then is makes everybody like become divisive in the fan base. You sort of like, because everybody who didn't keep the game from going ahead and causing that time is going to be saying, what are you doing? You just, so it could have potentially cost us points as well yesterday. So, yeah, you know what? It'd be nice to hear both sides of the argument. We've got the phone in on Wednesday. If you want to give us a shout and say, look, like, you're being killjoy or whatever. But I think in the cold light of day, most people, if they're being reasonable, accept that there are certain standards of behaviour that at football, we're old enough, Andy, to remember the railings and the fencing, and clinging onto that fencing was bloody awful as a kid, because couldn't see anything like it. They will never bring fencing back because of what happened at Hillsborough, but it's just like, it's this thing of like you're given. Once they take away these restrictions, it's up to us to make sure that we are responsible enough to behave in a way that they don't have to bring some other kind of implications into it, whether it's policing the ground and things like that, and that we don't want it. We don't want to be that situation. It's only antagonistic when that's the case.
If you watch Hallam Hope's goal on the repeat on the internet, you see two pint pots go in the air.
Yeah.
I'm watching that going, how have they got that in?
There's quite a few people are drinking in the stand yesterday. They managed to sneak it in under their jacket or whatever. But There was also, I think it was James Norwood's goal that I think this partially why there might have been an issue, but I'm pretty sure that there's like a Latics fan just kind of like gleefully jumping out of the home end onto the pitch. And you see, this is the thing. Part of me is laughing and finding that funny. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I'm not, I'm not Barry Owen in it. You know what I mean? Oh, this is a bloody criminal offence. I do see the humour in it. I do see the but at the end of the day, like, we do need to pack it in because it's not going to do the club any favours, and it's ultimately not going to do the team any favours as well. So, but yeah, I think, all in all, it was relatively low key. It wasn't dramatically bad, was it? I mean, we've seen a lot worse over the years, haven't we? So
yeah, we have, and if we sort of switch back to the sort of positive feeling, like, how good was it yesterday singing E-I, E-I?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Like, I turned to OFC Memories, who was behind me, and just said to him, I think that's the first time I've sung that song and like meant it for years.
Yeah.
Like, a long
you meant it.
Oh yeah, because I was like, I'm like, look, if we can keep this going, then we're 2 points outside the playoffs.
Yeah, a win on Tuesday, and other results go our way, and we're in the playoffs, aren't we? So and then it's simple job of just making sure you stay there, and by that stage we'll be 9-10 games possibly without defeat. So there's a real run now where we really are motoring up and stepping in the right direction.
We do have a real opportunity to make a stride into the playoffs as well, because Fylde away, you've got to fancy the 3 points there.
Christian, it's a banker. It's an absolute banker.
It's very Oldham to go there and get a draw or whatever, but then it's the home game to Altrincham. They're in the play. If we can beat them and they lose midweek, we leapfrog them.
Yeah.
So this next week or so is a massive chance to achieve it. And if we don't, then that's fine. We just carry on being consistent. But this could be the week that we do it.
And if we do get to the Altrincham game and we win or we don't lose, that will be our 10th game. When was the last time, Andy? I mean, Andy, actually, you've not been on Latics. As we approach the Latics Mind section of the show, you've not actually competed on Latics Mind, but it'd be interested to get you on to see how, especially as you read all these questions from Andy, and it's like revision. So, sorry from Paul, but the question I was leading to was, when was the last time that Latics went on a 10-match unbeaten streak?
It's got to be 2006-07, I would have thought. Because
that's a lot of games, isn't it? 10 matches.
Yeah,
so, I don't know. It's an unofficial Latics Mind question. I could Google it now. But
close to that last season. Wasn't there a point where we were sort of 8 or 9 games unbeaten last season?
Yeah,
we went on a decent run. Yeah, I'm thinking back when Richie Wellens took over from John Sheridan. We went on quite a good run then as well, didn't we? But I'm not sure how many games we were undefeated for. But but look, I mean, like you said, a massive week again to Rochdale, Fylde, and then I fancy us at home then against Altrincham. One of the things I was going to mention actually when we were talking about formation with the 4-1-4-1. Is that going to be our default away formation, or do you think that'll fly at home with the one up top? We scored 4 goals with it yesterday, so you can say, well, we scored 4 goals with it. So, what do you reckon, Christian? You think we'll have a formation, we'll stick with that, or do you think there'll be a bit of tinkering for home and away?
So, from what I've seen of National League over the last year and a half, I'd say one of the big differences between this and the higher leagues is the lack of decision-making that defenders can make. If you put defenders in this league under pressure, they make mistakes very often. And what I think this 4-1-4-1 allows us to do, like we said a bit before, Sheeran, it allows him to press. And he put their defenders under so much pressure yesterday. Why couldn't that work at home? If we can force teams into making errors like that, it should fly at home as well. And like you said, we scored 4 goals with 1 player up front because we've got Hope on one side. We looked dangerous going forward, so I can see why it would work at home.
The next question, of the obvious question that follows that, though, is what do we do with all those strikers that we've got on the bench or in the background? We're only playing 1 up front.
I mean, to me, we shouldn't have signed all the strikers anyway. I think Norwood was. I mean, I wouldn't have signed Norwood. I wouldn't have signed him.
But they're there now, aren't they? So we have to do
But that aside, what do you do? No player is bigger than the club. So, I mean, if we play 4-1-4-1 now, hypothetically speaking, for the next 10 games and we win 10 games, do we still worry about who's on the bench? Do we still worry about the fact we've got 5 strikers?
No.
We've got to go with that. And if it's a formula that we know works, and I can see it working with the midfielders that we've got, the way we pressed against Rochdale, I can see that working home and away.
Yeah, in a way, it's like 5-5, isn't it? Because you've got like a defensive 5 and a forward 5, sort of like on depending on how you play. But it definitely seemed to work yesterday. But obviously, it's disappointing that we conceded 3 goals. But I mean, their first goal was a deflect. Yeah, I don't think it was technically a hat trick, because I think the first goal came off another lad's chest and went in.
Well, it looked to me like it rolled down his arm. Actually, I wasn't sure whether it was handball, but
so it's 4-2 really.
Yeah. Yeah, 4-2 really, yeah. So, but yeah, it was, look, I mean, Fylde really struggling. Nothing to fear going there, have we? Again, packed away end Tuesday night. I'm going to get there a bit early, go and get some fish and chips by the sea. It's going to be, sounds like a...
Do you think we'll start with the same team? Do you think the midfield are fit enough to start a midweek game there?
What are the choices? if we don't, I mean, if we you know, if we do,
I
think we'd have to change the formation, wouldn't we?
Come in. Not that I'm a massive fan of Shelton, but I'm saying that just a bit of fresh legs in midfield. I mean, McGahey, Lundstrom just back from injury. I don't know.
Well, the best way of getting them fit is getting minutes in the legs, isn't it? And I think what we have to do, on Tuesday night is just, I'd start. I mean, obviously 60 minutes of injury time as well. That doesn't help. But like, get the best team out on the pitch and say, right, try and get a couple of goals up, demoralise them, you know, and then you can make your changes later on. I'd much rather win a game, you know, earlier on in the game, and then think about what to do later on than sort of compromise our better team early on in the game. So,
it is that sort of game. You could see us if we score 2 early goals there. They went, again, the Reds will go down and they won't be able to get back in. Yeah. If it's 0-0 after 60, you're starting to wonder.
Yeah, that's what we didn't do against some of these other teams when we, you know, the games that we drew when we played the likes of Maidstone and Dagenham and that. I think if we'd have got ahead early on in those games, we would a couple of goals clear would have been all right. But
you look at Maidstone mixed up with Maidenhead.
I can't get it. It's just that it's one of those two teams that begins with M. That's down south. Yeah, I don't know.
Remember
it. Yeah.
All those teams down at the bottom.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it does muddle me. But never mind. Anyway, so you work in the same school, Christian. Have you got another point before we move on to Latics Mind, Andy?
Well, before we do Latics Mind, I just wanted to close out the whole Mickey Mellon story with, you know, I was saying last week, I felt that the Steve Thompson, Neil Redfern exit just didn't feel right. I weren't happy with it. Did you, have you queued up the clip that I've clipped from the Guardian football podcast?
No, I didn't know you had clipped.
Looking at your face, I'm saying you've not. Well, we'll play it here. But this is a clip of Neil Redfern's wife on Guardian football podcast.
Right, let's have a listen.
Is Neil Redfern going to be the Bradford City manager? And if not, how did it get leaked in the national press that this was happening? Does anyone on the panel have any intel on Neil Redfern going to Bradford? I mean, who could I possibly turn to, Lucy, on this?
Well, do you know what he's gone in with his mate Steve Thompson at Oldham, who they couldn't buy a win all season, so he's gone in as caretaker, and they are unbeaten in 6, and they've given the job to somebody else.
Oh.
So, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I'm just going to sit back with my popcorn and see what happens for the rest of the time. So I think because they've done so well, I think he's been linked to both of them have been linked to other jobs. So rightly so, because he completely turned it around and gave a good platform for Mickey Mellon to come in and at Oldham. But that's football. That's what happens. And onwards and upwards. And Bradford could do worse.
Well, get your popcorn out, Lucy, because it was a fantastic game that Mickey Mellon's just taken charge of.
Yeah, definitely popcorn worthy.
I just feel like what was happening there was Steve Thompson and Neil Redfern were trying to apply pressure on the club through the recruitment process, and the club had obviously made a decision upon Mickey Mellon, and they have thrown their toys out of the pram and just walked out. And I just think it's a bit of a sour end and a disappointing end, truth be known. Yeah.
Can I just say something on that? And I'm not trying to put off Latics Mind. I have been dreading Latics Mind all day. But just to say something, I think appointing Mellon is absolutely the right appointment. I think Tomo, he did a great job. But to me, we needed somebody who's got experience of success at this level. And that's precisely why it went wrong with Unsworth. And I just felt as though if we'd have got Tomo and Redfern, I don't see those two turning it around at the club. So
I don't know. I think the thing is, I just look at it from the point of view of the board. I think the board, this was a much safer bet for them. If they'd have given it to Redfern and Thompson and it didn't work, then they can be accused of giving the job to people with not enough managerial experience. So they kind of would have made a rod for their own back. Whereas if this fails, they can turn around and say, well, look, I mean, he had all the credentials in the world. This was a good, solid appointment. If it's not worked, it's kind of out of their hands. So I think from that point of view, and I think look, so far so good. He's won one out of one. And we, like you were saying, Andy, before about having your doubts and this that. We've just got to just get behind him, and the crowd have singing his name already yesterday. I think there's a real sense. It felt like a very united club yesterday. Fans, players, manager, everyone. It feels like we turned a bit of a corner. And let's be honest, we do owe a debt of gratitude to Redfern and Thompson. I thought they did a really good job. Thank you very much for their efforts. The decision of who the manager was on the board. They've made that decision. Excuse me. On we go. On to Filed. But first, no more getting out of this now, young man. You are up against your colleague, so you've got bragging rights at the school. I'll be up on the staff room wall if you were to do well here. But it's the questions are easy if you know them. That's the bottom line. Andy's pulling a face there. I don't know if that means anything in particular. It means they're a tough set. I don't know. Anyway, we'll find out. Let's play Latics Bind.
Who scored Latics' last hat-trick?
Mike Fondop.
Correct. Carlo Corazin scored 4 goals against Wrexham in February 2001. Who scored the other goal in a 5-1 win?
Tony Cars.
Wrong, it was Paul Rickers. Which Latics player shared a name with a character from the TV show Battlestar Galactica?
Pass.
Phil Starbuck. Oh, shouldn't have done a pass. Latics have been in the playoffs 3 times, 86-87, 02-03, 06-07. Which season did we get the highest points total?
02-03.
Correct. Who scored Latics' extra time winner at Derby County in the 02-03 League Cup?
Oh, God. Should know this. Chris Killen.
Wrong, Clyde Weinhard. Who was Latics' top scorer in 06-07 season?
Oh, God. Chris Porter.
Correct. Which midfielder signed on loan by Ronnie Moore gave himself the nickname The Judge?
Oh, should know this. You're going to say his name and... No, I don't know.
Pass?
Yeah, pass.
How many Latics managers have achieved a major trophy, being a cup or a promotion? Major honours, a trophy or promotion during their tenure. How many managers? 5. So those 5 are Ashworth, Hardwick, Rowley, Frizzle, Royal. So you got 3 right, which is pretty good, and 1 pass that I've already given the answer away to, which is Phil Starbuck.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad, but it's not going to impress your colleague, is it?
I mean, Paul is the absolute oracle when it comes to information. He's always banging out facts. So,
yeah.
And I don't know where he pulls them from. Some of them I do.
He is the undisputed Latics mind of all. Of all, but I'd like to see you have a go, Andy.
I wouldn't do. I'd have probably only got like 3 or 4 of them myself. I would have thought.
Well, we'll see.
I got Klein Wildhard, but yeah, probably 4 maybe.
Yeah, I should have got Wynard.
Oh well, it's taking part that counts, and the listeners like to play along, so somebody has to be the fall guy. It was you this week, Christian. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed your pod debut. It's been good to have you on. Yeah,
I've really enjoyed it. Thanks. Yeah, it's something I've been looking to do really more of. I've always got an opinion in the stands anyway, whether people like it or not. So no, it's been nice to be on.
That's what it's all about. And don't forget, you can contact us at the Latics Football Phone in on a Wednesday night, 8:30. If you want to carry on the conversation, you're more than welcome to join us.
Will do. I'll always offer my side, yeah.
Excellent. Andy, you were up. We didn't see each other like ships in the night yesterday, but it was like very, very busy away end. So we can be forgiven. When are you up next?
Well, I'll see you next month in Liverpool for that for the Content Awards final.
Yes.
So see how we got on in that. I don't know about my next. Well, I'm going to Woking in a few weeks. I've got Barnet as well, so I'm going to those 2 away games coming up. I'm not sure about when I'll be at Boundary Park. I'll pick one.
Hey, well, but look, Fylde, then Altrincham, 10 matches, undefeated. That's got to be the first. It's got to be the first aim, hasn't it? Get into that playoff spot, and then stay there. That's basically where our season is going. It's come a long way. Yeah, absolutely. Gotta be 6 months. Big week for the Melon Man.
Very big week for the Melon Man.
Third time lucky at Wembley. That's all I keep thinking.
Well, I've been talking to people about this. I was talking to Aaron Diskin in the pub yesterday about it, and he said he'd been to the new Wembley 4 times, and he reeled off the occasions, England matches and American football and this, that, whatever. And I've still not been, and I'm still holding out like a lunatic to go to Wembley, the new Wembley, with Latics. So please, let's have it this season, boys? Thank you for listening to the Boundary Park Alert System, a QPod production hosted and produced weekly by Matt Dean, Andy Halliwell and Dave Bradley. QPod is Oldham's only dedicated podcast production company, and if you'd like to learn more about how podcasting can help take your brand to the next level, visit kupod.co.uk. A huge thank you goes to all those people who subscribe to the podcast on Spotify. We really appreciate you all. Please visit oafcpodcast.co.uk and click Be a Supporter or find the link in the show notes if you'd like to help us fund the show. It's only $2.99 per month to subscribe, but if you'd rather make a one-off donation, please visit buymeacoffee.com/OAFC podcast or click the link on our website. Don't miss the Latics Football Phone In every Wednesday live from 8:30pm. Please visit youtube.com/@OAFC podcast and do hit subscribe while you are there. You can also follow and interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok @OAFC podcast. Big thanks go to Eileen Finnegan for writing our excellent weekly blog, which we encourage you to read on our website every Saturday morning, and also to Paul Prendergast for providing us with all the Latics Mind questions. The title music for the show is by Manchester DJ and producer Starion, and for more information visit bandcamp.com/Red Laser Records. If you'd like to be a guest or contribute to the show, we would love to hear from you. Until then, see you next time.